The space race.
No nation which expects to be the leader of other nations can expect to stay behind in this race for space.
The world owes the technological advancements of the space race to the Nazis. The space race happened in the 20th century between the United States of America and the Soviet Union. The race started at the end of the Holocaust due to the capturing of German scientists for their engineering and scientific knowledge. This knowledge fueled the desire for supremacy and spaceflight capability.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Along with the scientists, the United States were able to capture the plans for the V-2 rocket. While the Soviets got the jump on the space race, the United States focused on rocket engineering, which pays off in the end as they make a giant leap for mankind. Sputnik. The Soviet Union was the first country to invest heavily into space technology. The Soviets began the space race with the initial launch of Sputnik on October 4, 1957. Sputnik was the world's first artificial satellite, weighing in at 184 pounds and being roughly the size of a beach ball. Sputnik was able to orbit the Earth in approximately 98 minutes on an elliptical path. The fairly small satellite was able to obtain data pertaining to the density of the upper layers of the atmosphere and the transmissions of radio signals in the ionosphere. While the function of the satellite was relatively simple compared to today's technology, it ushered in a new era and the space race began. Yuri Gagarin. The Soviet Union dominated the space race early on with Sputnik. Then on April 12, 1961, Yuri Gagarin became the first man to enter space. As a member of the Soviet Union cosmonaut program, he was chosen to pilot the Vostok 1 and orbit the Earth at an altitude of 187 miles at 18,000 miles an hour for 108 minutes. The Soviet Union was superior to the world in space technology, yet they never managed to design a brake system for Yuri. This initiated him to eject at 20,000 feet after entering the Earth's atmosphere. This caused a serious debate on whether he should be officially named the first man to enter space, since he did not land back on Earth in the Vostok. Later, it was decided that he was.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Apollo 11. The Apollo 11 mission was when the United States finally became relevant in the space race. It started with the launch of the rocket at Cape Kennedy on July 16, 1969. The ship was carrying Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, and Edwin Buzz Aldrin. President John F. Kennedy set the mission goals, and the primary objective was to perform a crewed lunar landing and return to Earth. The other objectives were to explore with the lunar module, deploy a television camera and laser ranging retroreflector. Scientific objectives were to gather solar wind and seismic readings. The mission lasted 8 days with the astronauts landing in the Pacific Ocean.
I'm going to step off the limb. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
90 seconds and counting. All systems are go. We're about 90 seconds from the launch of Space Shuttle Discovery. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Start. 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery, returning to the space station, paving the way for future missions beyond.
Mars Odyssey, the U.S. Mars Orbiter and Lander. This land rover launched April 7, 2001, and reached Mars on October 24, 2001. It served as a communications relay for future Mars missions. The 2001 Mars Odyssey mission makes use of many innovative technologies, but the most important among them are the three instrument packages: the Thermal Emissions Imaging System, the Gamma Ray Spectrometer, and the Martian Radiation Experiment. Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter was launched on August 12, 2005 for a half-year voyage to Mars. The MRO reached Mars on March 10, 2006 and began its scientific mission of atmospheric analysis in November of 2006. New innovations made by engineers for the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter mission include the optical navigation camera, a detector on the Mars Climate Sounder, and the Ka-band telecommunications experiment. InSight. The U.S. Mars Lander. InSight, or Interior Exploration Using Seismic Investigations, Geodesy, and Heat Transport, is the 12th mission in NASA's series of Discovery-class missions. InSight will take a look into the interior of Mars to see why the planet evolved so differently from Earth as a co-resident of our solar system. The InSight lander will carry 3 instruments to the surface of Mars to take the first ever in-depth look at the planet's configuration as measured by the Science Experiment for Interior Structure Instruments, or SIZE. The instrument will measure the temperature with the HP-cube instrument, while the state and size of the core measurements with the Rotation and Interior Structure Equipment, or RISE. Together, the data will provide essential clues about the evolution of not just Mars, but also all the terrestrial planets. InSight was supposed to be launched between March 8th and March 27th of 2016, but was delayed until 2018 because the size failed to hold a vacuum at extreme cold temperature.
In the future, there will be multiple forms of space travel, from short trips for space tourism to long-term habitation of other planets. At the moment, the next milestone is sending a human to Mars. NASA is working with other companies like SpaceX and Boeing to develop new technologies in order to send humans to Mars. NASA predicts they'll be able to send humans to orbit Mars in the early 2030s. But until then, there will be much more work and research to ensure that it will be possible to reach the red planet. Currently, the International Space Station is used as research to understand what happens to the human body when exposed to microgravity for extended periods of time. NASA plans to send more missions to the Moon as training and research for the Mars mission. They explained that the Moon is the next step between the space station, which is only hours away, to Mars, which is months away. These missions will start with the unmanned trip, which will test the Orion spacecraft, followed by missions with astronauts, which will go beyond the Moon and the farthest we ever gone into space. The Moon research and training will also include an asteroid redirect mission, which consists of using a robotic spacecraft to capture an asteroid and put it in orbit around the Moon. The asteroid will serve as an astronaut training location that will allow tests in deep spacewalking, sampling techniques, and solar electrical propulsion. While we are training humans in the Moon missions, NASA will be sending another Mars rover, which will study resources in Mars including oxygen and subsurface water. The 2020 rover will be used to determine if there was life on Mars in the past and if there is currently any microbial life. After many years of research and multiple missions for training and tests, NASA will be ready to send humans to orbit Mars in the early 2030s. But there will be much more to develop. This phase will be used to test the entry, descent, and landing techniques.
Pros and cons of the space race. Technology like GPS, weather predictions, and satellites were developed because of the competition between the countries. However, it caused both the USSR and the US to build a lot of nuclear weapons. Pros and cons of space exploration. Exploring into space gives us a chance to learn about how the galaxy works. Space exploration could also possibly solve overpopulation and give means to become more technologically advanced. However, when affected by microgravity, functions of the body such as the immune system are altered. An experiment in a microgravity simulator found that old diseases in the body such as chickenpox began to resurface. Also, to leave Earth is extremely costly. SpaceX estimated their cost for 70 future missions at $10 billion. Pros and cons of colonizing Mars. Colonizing Mars would bring a new wave of technology, such as the ability to manage solar flares, asteroid collisions, or volcano eruptions that could potentially destroy Earth or Mars. The cons of colonizing Mars is that it could cause another space race that could end up in nuclear warfare, as well as it being extremely costly. Lastly, a voyage to Mars is a one-way trip.
You turns me to a savage.